Well, this week we are making a fireplace. I love how this turned out. It's been an interesting journey, not because the project was difficult, but because it seemed like everything was going wrong, including the weather around here. So stay tuned, see how fun and easy this project is, and see where I made a few mistakes along the way. Alright, so off camera I did cut this out. Now this is made of what we refer to usually in miniature making as builder's foam, and I will put a link to this product at where I found it on the Home Depot website so you can see exactly what I'm talking about on there. But it's an inexpensive, basically rigid insulation. It's a specific type of foam that's really easy to carve. And I use it in a ton of projects. I purchased a 4x8 sheet of it several years ago, and I'm almost done using that up. So what I did, and all the cutting sizes and everything will also be on my blog post, but this is a 4-inch by 3-inch rectangle, and I cut a 2x2 square right out here, so there's an inch going each way. And this is the knife I use to cut it with, because this one I can extend excuse me, all the way out and cut through, and it takes several cuts. Just be really careful, and it doesn't have to be perfectly smooth because this is going to become stone. Now sometimes I draw my stones on before I start, and sometimes I don't. I don't think I'm going to today, and I'm not going to carve all of this on camera. I'm just going to start, and then I'll go off camera and do the rest of it. But I'm going to make I am carving some stones. I want this one to continue over here. And I'm going to carve out a little, kind of a channel. Because remember, river rock, this is supposed to be a river rock fireplace. So it's a fireplace that is, you know, it's big boulders basically, big round river rocks. So I want to carve that out. And if you feel more comfortable, you know, drawing your stones with a pencil or a Sharpie pen, that's cool. Go ahead and do that. And I might, before I get done, and you guys probably can't see a thing about what I'm doing, but I'm trying to get into that inside. Right now I'm just going to rough in my stones, and I guess I can take a pencil and kind of show you where I'm going to do this, or maybe a pen. Oh, pull a black Sharpie out if I can find one, or a dark one. I can't find a black one. I've got a blue Sharpie. I don't see my black one. So we've got this rock here. I'm going to go put one here, and this one will continue here. Then I'm going to have a boulder here, and this one I'm going to have come up like this and go all the way over here. And then I'll do some things here. I'll probably divide that like that, and maybe this like this. You want some fairly large rocks, but they don't have to be, you know. And this one I'm going to have go all the way over there. And then we've got a cut here already, so I'll use that. And I'll just leave that as one. So that one will come there. I'll probably round it a bit so it comes like this. And I'll continue. I'll make this a whole pattern, and I'll cut out basically little channels where I've drawn all those lines. And when that's all done, I'll come back and we'll go to the next step. Alright, so that didn't take nearly as long as I thought it would. It took about probably 10 or 15 minutes. It is messy, so I recommend doing this on top of like a piece of a paper towel or something, so it's easy to clean up. But I cut the lines through to here. I made some wandering lines on the sides. Mainly you want the front and the two ends done nicely. This part is going to remain flat, and this part will remain flat, and the back will remain flat. And in fact, we're going to glue on now the back wall of our fireplace. Now, excuse me. So I cut a piece of paperboard, or in other words, a cracker box, to fit the back. I cut it just slightly less than 4 inches long by the 3 inches tall. And if I can get my glue open, I'm just going to use any glue that you have that's compatible with styrofoam. White glue works great. This has quickly become probably the most used glue in my craft room. It's this Elmer's Craft Bond quick drying glue, and I actually got this in the paint department the other day, a while back. If you live on the West Coast, you might be familiar with Fred Meyer's. That's where I got it. But I imagine places like, Walmart or Kmart or any of those stores that have that kind of stuff. I'm not sure. I haven't looked for it at the craft store, so I don't know if they have it. So a good coat. I'll clean that off with a wet wipe off camera. Now I am going to put this side to the back because this is not as shiny, so I think it will glue on better. It doesn't need to line up at the top, but it should line up at the bottom. So I'm going to put it against my tile and make sure I can't see the cardboard, at least not very much, on the ends. All right. Oops, get that lined up. And I am going to set this aside to dry. And when that glue is dry, I'll come back and we'll go to the next step. Okay, so for the most part, my glue is dry. It's not completely dry, so it's not really holding on back there, but we're going to move on ahead because I want to get this done. So we're going to use two colors of paint. First, we're going to paint all of this pink part, the outside, with a gray. And this gray is going to be your grout between your stones. So you need to really work it mostly down in those areas. And we're going to paint in here, but we're going to paint over most of this later on our next batch. And even through this step, we're not going to see most of the work we did when we were carving. That's not going to show yet. But I want to give everything a nice coat of gray. And this is just rain gray. Just any gray paint. And it's going to take quite a bit because it's going to soak in. There. We also want the surfaces. Everything's going to be painted. And after I paint this, I may actually do some trimming. I'm going to see what this looks like once I get rid of the pink. It's a little easier to see how my carving went once I get rid of all that pink. So I'm going to finish painting these sides that I carved. I don't need paint on this side, and I don't need paint on the bottoms. But I'm going to keep painting this front side and then this side and these sides, and when that paint is painted and dry, I'll be back. Alright, so my gray paint is not all the way dry, but I'm going to paint some black in here so we get the base coat there done, because we want the inside of our fireplace is going to be black because that will be all, covered in soot, and we need to put a black coat under before we can put our fire bricks in. And eventually I'm going to paint black up on the side, so I'm not worried about having this be very neat at this point. I just want to cover all the pink and all the cardboard So that's what I'm going to check for now. Do I have all the pink covered? Do I have all the cardboard covered? It looks like it. So this all needs to dry completely, and then we're going to round off these corners and do another base coat of our grout color, and then we'll start having more fun. Alright, my paint is almost dry. Now, some people do this next step before they paint. I like to paint it and then get a better look at how this looks, because I find the pink color distracting. So I'm going to round off some of these corners now and make it look more like a rock. So now I'm going to cut in there. I'm almost dropping the next step on the floor. Because I don't know, when I try to make the corners rounded when it's still pink, I end up having to go back and fixing it anyway. So this one looks way take out some chunks. This edge I'm not so concerned about. In fact, I'm going to leave, well, I'm going to leave it fairly straight, but just kind of take off just small amounts. This edge I'm going to, I find I'm much, I guess I would say I can get it much more irregular by waiting until I have it painted with the gray before I do this. I have little bits sticking off there, it's bugging me. That one I want to get that way. So that, I think, is now done. So I'm going to put another coat of this gray color on it to cover up the pink I've now re-exposed. And after that dries, we are going to add some fire bricks to the back of it. Alright, for the next part, our gray doesn't actually have to be dry, it just has to be dry enough that I don't mess it up by sticking my finger in it. So we need some glue, and I made myself some bricks, and I'll show you those in just a second. I'm going to put some glue out, and I'm going to get, there's a toothpick. That will work. Alright, I made myself a whole container of little bricks. And these little bricks are made of egg carton. And it doesn't matter if they have the writing on them, we're going to use the inside of the egg carton is rougher and more like brick. So I've made a whole bunch. They're 1/4 inch by 3/4 of an inch. I just made tons of them. We're actually going to paint over these, but we need the texture of the bricks in the back to make this look more like a fireplace. So this is going to probably be a long process. So put a little glue. I'm going to have to get this where I can see the first one. And we're just going to one by one glue these in. Leave a small space, but it doesn't have to be a very big space. We're not going to grout this or anything, we're just going to paint it when we're done. But I wanted to make sure that my background was black underneath the glue, because the paint won't, that way the back behind the bricks will not look funny. Do I have room for another one? Do I? Barely. Now, I need to cut one in half because when you're laying bricks, you need to offset them. So we start out with a half one, and then a whole one. We continue the whole way till we get to the end, and we put the other half one in the end. And rather than make you sit here and watch me rather than have you sit here and watch me put these in, I'll just finish this second row, and then I'll do the rest of this off camera, and I'll come back when I get the whole inside of this bricked up. Put this in. And come on, fit in there. And it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to continue down. I'm going to fill this whole space in with bricks, and when I get that done, I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Alright, so I got that done. It didn't take me nearly as long as I thought it was going to, kind of like carving that. It didn't take near as long as I thought. I've kind of went through with a double pointed knitting needle and kind of tried to wipe off some of the extra glue, so I missed that row. And yeah, some of these are crooked, that's okay. It's not really going to show that much because I'm going to let this paint dry, and then we are going to color our stones in and get everything ready. Then later we will paint that all with a flat black. So I need to let everything I've got done so far dry, probably overnight because it's cold and wet right now, and that is affecting my drying time today. This has taken forever. Even under my lights it's not drying, so I will probably come back to this in the morning and paint my stones, so I'll see you then. Alright, so this glue has dried overnight, and now we're going to do our first coat of black paint on the front of this. We're actually going to touch it up later, but I like to get the majority of my painting done first. That gives me a better gauge to be sure that it looks the way I want it to. And in case you're wondering why I painted the back black and then put the bricks on and then paint it black again, it might seem like I've wasted a step, but that's because if the glue got down there if the glue oozed out from under my bricks, it would be hard to cover because the glue doesn't always take the paint very well. And then you'd be able to see the cardboard back there easier. It'd be much harder to paint it. There, now I'm going to let that dry, and when that's dry, or dry-ish, I'll come back and we'll start working on these stones. Alright, so our black paint is dry, and now I have some little dabs of various colors of grays and browns. I've got it's kind of a sandstone, a green, and a black. And the colors you use don't really matter. It's whatever variety of colors you have in your paint collection, use that. I just randomly grabbed. And then I've got a bunch of cotton swabs or Q-tips. And I would prefer to use these for doing this because I don't have to clean them up. I've got a nice end here I can use. When it gets too much paint, I can throw it away. And it's good for getting in here where I'm going to be going. So I'm going to start, and I have, this gray is the same as the gray that's already on here, so I probably won't use much of it. Start out with this light gray. And just pick a stone and kind of, and I want to put a little bit of brownish color in there. And you're going to kind of mix the paints right in place. I'm going to try and get down on the sides. follow that stone around. And I'm not sure how many of these I'm going to leave the camera on for, because I'll do a few so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm using my tile pretty much as a palette here, as a mixing palette too. Oh, there's some places I missed when I was painting pink. That's not good. Be sure I get that when I do the next stone over. Okay, so that's that one. Let's do this one here, and I want to put some of this same green. I'm going to take a touch of, or same gray, I'm going to take a touch of green. And this one I'm going to go around and inside the fireplace a ways. Now we will be painting most of the side here with black when we get all done. Oh, more green. And then I'm going to get into there. Kind of mix it together. Mix it on your tile, mix it on your project. It doesn't matter. I do a little of both. Because I want them to look like rocks, and rocks are not, at least where I live, rocks are not a solid gray. They vary a lot in color, especially the big ones that come out of the rivers and the ponds and stuff. Oops, there's cat hair. Surprise, surprise. There's cat hair everywhere in my house. Alright, so that one's pretty good. I'm going to change to a clean Q-tip or cotton swab. I'm going to take some of this and some of this base color that I used. And I've got my jars of paint right here so I can get more out if I need it. I like this color a lot, so I'm going to use that one over here too. Remember to look and see if your stone that you cut, if you cut it to go around the side, if it wraps around. You want some continuity if it does. If you hear a lot of noise, there is a big windstorm going on right now. So I'm just hoping that my power stays on so I can actually finish this video and upload it. Right now that's questionable. So I guess if you're seeing this and it went up on time, I was able to get it done. Alright, let's go with, let's take some of this gray just as it comes. Part of the work was done for us. We did part of the work for ourselves when we did the base coat. But we just don't want to have everything look the same. I'm going to take a little bit of this black. Okay. Let's do a rock that's more of a brown. I missed some color there too, but that's okay. Whoops. Whoa. Kind of broke that. Well, you know what? Okay, we broke it off. We'll just put some gray in there and some brown over it. There. No problem. It just became a different shape. Alright, I've got paint on both ends of that one, so I want to put that down. I buy these at Dollar Tree, and there's like 300 in the package for $1, so I feel good about changing them often. All right, let's put this brown on this one. It's only going to be seen from the side. And I'm not going to clean use a clean Q-tip. I'm just going to use the same one. I'm going to take this really light gray. And that is a gray. It's not a white, it's a gray. It's a very light gray. So I am going to continue for the rest of the fireplace. I don't think there's a reason for you to watch me do every one of them, because that would take forever. So I'm going to finish this up, and when this is finished and dried, I'll come back and show you how it looks. Alright, I decided while the stone is drying to work on the mantle and the hearth. Now, a little bit of an embarrassing confession time. When I cut these parts, I realized, remember I told you I cut the fireplace 3 inches tall by 4 inches wide? I actually cut it 3 inches tall by 5 inches wide. I misread my measuring, my ruler I was using. So, I will have the correct measurements in the blog post. This is a piece of foam core, and this is the lid off of a carton of eggs. And it's a whole one, just like we used for the bricks inside of our of the firebox on our fireplace. This is what our hearth will be made out of too. And I should have done this earlier, because then I could have painted it at the same time I painted the other part. Would have made sense. But I don't always work in a logical manner. Okay, I cut that side fairly, so I'm going to stick this on here. And decided it would be easier to cut this once I had it on. Well, that's going to be covered by my fireplace, so that'll be fine. Now, is this long enough? Yes. And this is a 1/4 inch wide strip. Mainly, we want the front of this covered, the front area and that center area where the firebox is. The fireplace is going to be on top of this part. And this will just look like a stone hearth when we're done. And make sure that the inside of the egg carton is what's on the outside here. This is the outside that's towards the... If it sticks up a little bit, that's okay, because we can, like I made it a little wide there, we can sand it off with an emery board. So, should have my... I don't see my super glue. Should have had my super glue so I could glue that, but I am going to hold this in place until it wants to stay. Once this is dry, we'll paint it, and then we can start assembling our fireplace. Alright, so that glue is pretty much dry. We're going to go ahead and do a quick paint on this. And then we're going to quickly finish off the mantle too. So I've got just the 4 colors of gray paint, or 3 colors of gray paint, sorry. I can't count today. I can't measure and I can't count. And I found that I was just able to take a small pair of scissors in and trim this exactly to size from the back once the glue got set. Notice I'm just squirting all 3 colors of paint pretty close here. I have one of those really cheap disposable paint brushes that you get in the paint department. And that's just because I don't want this a solid color. I want a little more of that light in there, I think. This was the lighter one. Is this the lighter one? Yeah. The problem with these paintbrushes is they do shed. You can tell my glue's not completely dry yet. But that's okay. We just want to get this done before the power goes out. Get off their hairs. Okay, that's done. Pick off the brush hairs. Now, I have a piece of, this is just balsa wood, and I want to rough it up a little bit. I'll use a wire brush. Balsa wood is good for this project because it's really soft. All those qualities we hate in it for like miniature furniture making will be perfect for what we're doing here. There. Now, I have some dark brown paint. This happens to be espresso from Ceramicoat. Put that on my tray. And I have this is a cosmetic sponge. I bought a bag of like cosmetic sponges at Big Lots a while back. You could use anything you want to apply this. I just wanted to make a rubbed in type finish. I didn't want to paint it. You could rough this up even more if you wanted to. It's up to you. I'm going to do both sides and then we'll pick which side, I'll pick which side I like best to use for the top. Don't forget the ends. And now that needs to dry. So I'm going to let those dry, and when they are, I'll be back. Alright, so my paint's all dry, so now I'm going to assemble this. So I'm going to fit this onto here. I just want to make sure that it's going to fit. And yes, it is. So I am going to put some glue here. Almost to the end of this project. We just have a few more steps to do. We're lining this up with the back and the ends. And then, let's see, first we need to choose, I think I like that side the best. And you need to make sure that you have everything straight. The back needs to be straight and you want everything lined up on the ends. So double check. And I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to lay it down its back so you can see what it looks like. This all needs to dry. And I think I'm going to be holding this for a little bit. I didn't want to use super glue because I haven't tested my super glue with the foam, and I'm not sure if it would have eaten it or not. So that's one downside to using a foam. So I am going to hold on to this, make sure it is held together until it sets, and when it's dry we'll come back and do our next step. Alright, so now my glue is not all the way dry, but it is holding this together. At home, if you make this, wait until your glue's all the way dry. But I have a big, second part of my big windstorm is hitting this afternoon, and I'd like to get this done, and I'm hoping I can get this video done and uploaded and scheduled for you guys before the storm hits, and that means kind of rushing things a little. I'm not even sure this is going to dry. So what I've got some matte Mod Podge. I want to put a clear finish on this. I don't want a shiny finish, but I want a finish. I want it to look a little more finished than just the acrylic paint. It will hold up better and it will just look more done. Now remember, you're working with foam. Oh, and you don't need to get it into that back part. We're going to put black paint over part of this finish and over that back. So I'm going to cover the whole, most of this. I'm not going to bother painting back there because I don't need to. But you've seen me put Mod Podge on before. I'm going to put this on and wait for this to dry most of the way. At home you'll need to let it dry all the way, but like I said, trying to push this a bit today. So I'm going to get this on. I'm going to get it dry, and then I'll be back and we'll go on to the very last step in finishing this. Alright, for the most part the Mod Podge is dry. It's dry where I need it to be dry. So now we're going to add some soot to our fireplace to make it look like it's been used, and also to knock the shine down from any glue that may have gotten in the back. Now remember, fires tend to make the insides of your fireplace very black. And that's something I find a fault with a lot of fireplaces I see for sale for dollhouses, is the insides look all nice and clean. I want it to look like it's been used. Now I don't have one of the flickering fireplace lighting units that you could use to light this with, so I can't show you how to put that in this one. I have a couple more. Oops, it's okay if that got on there. I can wipe it back. Since that's had Mod Podge on it, I can get a wet wipe and wipe that off. There. Since I have a couple more fireplaces planned. So, and you might be asking, why is there a cotton ball there? You'll see that in a minute. Oh, and I did make one more addition off camera, which I'll show you at this point. It was bugging me. I could see light through here, that the back was not joining that, so I just took a piece of black cardstock. When I had my Mod Podge out still, I just put that on with Mod Podge. Now, I know it's going to be really hard for you guys to see what I'm doing here, but I got to have it so I can see. I don't want it clear out there, because I don't want it all the way out on the hearth, but I don't want it to be, whoops. It's another reason for sealing, besides the fact that we don't want the soot area to, see if I can find a Q-tip. Might work better than the cotton. I want to soften this edge. There. And I'm going to go up here. Because sometimes there will be a little bit of evidence of smoke right over the center. So when this dries, our fireplace is done. You might want to give the wood a second coat of Mod Podge later, but pretty much that's done as soon as that dries. So when that all gets dry, completely dry, the Mod Podge is dry, so you can see what it looks like finished, I'll come back and show you our finished fireplace. Alright, so this finally got dry. I'll talk in the blog post about how long this took to dry and my theory about why, but basically it's weather related. But this is our finished fireplace. I am going to, as soon as I get done with the video and the photos, I'm going to put another coat of Mod Podge on the wood because I can tell it has not sealed it really well, but I don't want to wait for that to dry before I finish up the video. It won't look a lot different, it will just feel different. So here's our fireplace. I'm looking forward to showing you how to do some more things for around the fireplace, and I have a couple more fireplace ideas for later on, maybe after Christmas or something. But I love how this turned out. If you want to finish it off more, you could paint this back with some black paint just to make it look a little more finished. It's up to you. It will be against the wall in your dollhouse or wherever you display it probably. So it's optional. But anyway, that is our fireplace. Be sure and check the blog post for more photos and more details. Be sure, if you haven't found the Facebook group, I'd love to have you join us over there. You get a heads up on what's going on video-wise, a few sneak peek pictures, and it's a really good place to talk to me. The link for that is in the description box of almost all my videos. I will talk to you later. Bye.